The rifle shot came at dawn, and that was how Josephine first saw her. Most mornings on the Holloway Ranch started with silence, the kind that pressed against your ears until you heard your own heartbeat. But that particular morning in late September, when the desert still held summer's rage in its bones, the crack of a Winchester rifle split the air clean in two. Josephine was already awake, had been for hours, sitting on the porch with her father's old ledger, trying to make numbers tell a different story than the one they kept insisting on. The shot made her stand, made her reach for the revolver she'd taken to wearing since she didn't run toward the sound. Running got you killed out here. She moved careful, keeping low, keeping the rising sun at her back so she wouldn't be outlined against the sky like some fool target. The shot had come from the direction of the old riverbed, the Santa Rosa, they'd called it once, back when it actually held water. Now it was just a scar across the land, a memory of better times written in cracked earth and bleached stone. What Josephine found there changed everything, though she wouldn't understand that for weeks to come. The woman stood in the shadow of an overhanging rock formation, perfectly still, rifle still raised to her shoulder. She was Comanche. That much was clear from the way she held herself, the cut of her clothing, the darkness of her hair that fell past her shoulders like a river of night. But there was something else too, something in the set of her jaw, the way her eyes scanned the horizon, even after the shot, that spoke of a hunger that had nothing to do with survival. This was purpose, this was mission. At the woman's feet lay a dead coyote, clean shot through the skull. Mercy killing if coyotes deserved mercy. Josephine watched for 5 full minutes before making herself known. In that time, she learned more about this stranger than most people revealed in a lifetime. The woman moved with absolute economy, no wasted motion, no hesitation. She cleaned her rifle with practiced hands. She knelt by the coyote and whispered something Josephine couldn't hear, some prayer or apology or acknowledgement. Then she stood and turned and looked directly at the spot where Josephine was hidden. Their eyes met across 30 yards of desert floor. Neither woman reached for a weapon. Neither woman spoke. They simply looked, and in that looking, something shifted, something recognized something else. Josephine stepped out from behind the twisted juniper that had been her cover. The stranger didn't move. Up close, Josephine could see she was younger than she'd first appeared, maybe 25, maybe 30. Age was hard to read in the desert. It wrote its stories in lines around the eyes, in the set of the mouth, in hands that had known too much work and not enough water. The stranger's hands were like that, beautiful and brutal all at once. "You're on Holloway land," Josephine said. Her voice came out rougher than she intended. She hadn't spoken to another human being in 3 days. The stranger's eyes flickered. Not with fear, with assessment. She was measuring Josephine the way you'd measure an opponent before a fight, looking for weaknesses, for tells, for the thing that would give her an advantage. "This land belonged to my people before it belonged to anyone named Holloway," the stranger said finally. Her English was perfect, accented but perfect. The kind of English you learned from missionaries or soldiers or someone who'd moved between worlds enough to know how to survive in both. Josephine couldn't argue with that. Wouldn't argue with that. Her father had bought this land cheap from a man who'd bought it cheaper from the government that had taken it from people like the woman standing in front of her. "Fair enough," Josephine said. "What's your name?" The stranger considered this question for a long time, too long, as if a name was something precious that couldn't be given away lightly. "Call me Red Sky," she said finally. "It's close enough to the truth. I'm Josephine Holloway. I know who you are." That should have frightened Josephine. Instead, it intrigued her. This woman had been watching, learning, preparing. For what? "The coyote had rabies," Red Sky said, gesturing to the dead animal at her feet. "I've been tracking it for 2 days. It killed 3 chickens at the Morales homestead. Would have spread to people eventually. You did them a kindness then. Kindness has nothing to do with it." Red Sky's voice was flat, empty. "I don't believe in leaving threats alive." Something in the way she said it made Josephine's skin prickle. This wasn't about a rabid coyote. This was about something else. Someone else? Are you living out here? Josephine asked. In the riverbed? Red Sky didn't answer immediately. She looked past Josephine toward the horizon, where the sun was climbing higher and turning the desert into a furnace of light and shadow. I'm hunting, she said. Living is just what I do in between. Hunting what? Red Sky's eyes came back to Josephine's face. They were black as midnight, black as the space between stars, and they held depths Josephine couldn't begin to measure. The man who destroyed my family. The man who left me with nothing but this. She touched her chest, where her heart would be. This hollow place where everything good used to live. Josephine knew that hollow place. She'd been living in it for 6 months, ever since they found her father face down in the north pasture, with a bullet in his back and his pockets turned inside out. The sheriff had called it robbery, called it bad luck, called it the price of living so far from civilization. But Josephine had seen her father's face, had seen the execution in it, the way he'd been shot close range, personal, by someone who wanted him to know he was dying. When you find this man, Josephine said slowly, what are you going to do? Red Sky smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. It was the smile of a woman who'd given up on pleasant things. I'm going to watch him die, she said. Slow enough that he understands what he took from me, fast enough that he doesn't get to beg. Josephine should have walked away, should have told this dangerous stranger to get off Holloway land and never come back, should have gone to the sheriff, reported a Comanche woman living rough in the territories, probably wanted for something somewhere. Instead, she heard herself say, there's a line shack about a mile west of here. Nobody uses it anymore. It has a roof. A well that still draws clean water. If you're going to be hunting, you might as well be comfortable. Red Sky stared at her, really stared, as if trying to understand a language she'd never heard before. Why would you do that? Josephine thought about her father, about the hollow place in her own chest, about the way justice out here was less a system and more a hope you whispered into the wind. Because I understand revenge, she said. And I understand that sometimes the law isn't justice. Sometimes justice is what you make with your own hands. Red Sky was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. Once, sharp. Show me this line shack. And just like that, Josephine Holloway's life divided into before and after. Before she met the woman who wore the desert like a secret. And after, when nothing would ever be simple again. 3 days passed before Josephine saw Red Sky again. In those 3 days, she tried to go back to normal, tried to focus on the ranch, on the cattle that needed moving before winter, on the fence line that needed mending, on the 1,000 small tasks that kept a homestead from sliding into ruin. But her mind kept drifting back to the riverbed, to the woman with the rifle and the hollow place in her chest, to the way Red Sky had looked at her, not with gratitude, but with something sharper. Recognition, maybe, or warning. On the morning of the 4th day, Josephine rode out to the line shack. She told herself it was to check the roof before the autumn rains came. Told herself it had nothing to do with the stranger who might or might not still be there. Red Sky was there. She was sitting on the steps of the shack, cleaning a knife that gleamed in the morning light. Not just any knife, a Bowie knife, the kind that could gut a man as easily as a deer. She didn't look up when Josephine approached. Just kept working the whetstone along the blade's edge with steady, practiced strokes. You're still here, Josephine said. Unnecessary words, obvious words, but she needed to say something. You gave me permission to be here. Red Sky's voice was flat, stating facts. Or are you taking it back? No, I brought supplies. Josephine dismounted, pulled a sack from her saddlebag. Coffee, beans, some dried beef. Nothing fancy. Now Red Sky did look up. Her eyes were unreadable. Why? It was the same question as before. The same suspicion. And Josephine found she didn't have a better answer than the truth. Because I'm lonely, she said. Because you're the first person I've talked to in months who doesn't look at me with pity or discomfort. Because when my father died, I became something people don't know what to do with. A woman alone on a ranch, unmarried, ungoverned, unprotected. They look at me like I'm a problem that needs solving. And I don't, Red Sky said. It wasn't a question. No, you look at me like I'm a person. Something flickered across Red Sky's face. Not quite a smile, not quite understanding, but something adjacent to both. Come inside, she said. I'll make coffee. The line shack was small. Just one room with a stone fireplace, a narrow cot, and a table that had seen better decades. But Red Sky had made it hers. Her rifle leaned against the wall, oiled and ready. A map was spread across the table, marked with notations in a language Josephine didn't recognize. And in the corner, carefully wrapped in oilcloth, was something that looked like ceremonial clothing, beautiful beadwork, intricate patterns. The kind of thing you kept to remember who you'd been before the world broke you. They drank coffee in silence. It was terrible coffee, bitter and overbrewed, but Josephine drank it anyway. There was something companionable about sitting in this small space, sharing bad coffee with a woman who understood that silence wasn't empty. It was just restful. Can I ask what you're hunting for? Josephine said finally. Besides the man. I mean, how do you find someone in all this? Red Sky set down her cup, looked at the map on the table. You learn their patterns, she said, their habits, where they drink, where they gamble, who they hurt and who they spare. You follow the trail of damage they leave behind. Men like him, they can't help but destroy things. It's in their nature. Men like him, Josephine repeated. What kind of man is he? Red Sky's jaw tightened. For a moment, Josephine thought she wouldn't answer. Then, the kind who burns villages for sport, who takes what he wants and destroys what he can't take, who murdered my sister and my mother and my younger brother while I was away trading horses, the kind who leaves one survivor on purpose so they can carry the weight of it forever. The words were delivered without emotion, flat, clinical, but beneath them, Josephine could feel the rage. The kind that burned so hot it turned cold. The kind that kept you alive when everything else said to lie down and die. I'm sorry, Josephine said. Inadequate words, useless words. But what else was there? Don't be. Red Sky's eyes found hers. Sorry doesn't hunt. Sorry doesn't aim. Sorry doesn't pull the trigger when the moment comes. No, but sorry is human. And if you lose that, what's left? Red Sky stood abruptly, walked to the window, stared out at the desert that stretched in all directions, endless and unforgiving. I'll tell you what's left, she said quietly. Purpose, direction, the knowledge that when I find him, when I look into his eyes and he knows why he's dying, that will be enough. That will be everything, Josephine wanted to argue. Wanted to say that revenge wouldn't fill the hollow place. That killing the man who'd destroyed her family wouldn't bring them back. But she thought about her father, about the way she'd lain awake every night for 6 months, imagining what she'd do if she ever found his killer. And she realized she had no right to tell Red Sky not to want the same thing. Teach me, Josephine said instead. Red Sky turned, stared at her. Teach you what? How to hunt, how to track, how to shoot well enough that when the moment comes, you don't miss. Why would I do that? Josephine stood, met Red Sky's eyes across the small room. Because I think the man you're hunting might be the same man who killed my father. Because I've seen 6 robberies in this territory in the last year, all the same. Execution-style killings, pockets turned out, no witnesses. Because the sheriff won't do anything about it, and I'm tired of being helpless, and because I think you're as lonely as I am, and maybe we can be less lonely together. The silence stretched. Red Sky's face was unreadable. Josephine held her breath, waiting for the rejection she was certain was coming. Then Red Sky smiled. A real smile this time. Small and sharp as a knife blade. All right, she said. But I warn you, what I teach won't make you safer. It will make you dangerous, and once you become dangerous, you can't go back to being harmless. Good, Josephine said. I'm tired of being harmless. And so it began. Every morning for the next 3 weeks, Josephine rode out to the line shack before dawn. Red Sky taught her to track, how to read the story written in disturbed earth, broken branches, the pattern of hoofprints. She taught her to shoot, not the way Josephine's father had taught her, aiming at tin cans and fence posts, but the way you shot when your life depended on it, fast, accurate, without hesitation. She taught her to move quietly, to think like prey and hunter simultaneously, to read the land the way you'd read a person's face, understanding what it was telling you without needing words. But more than that, she taught her to be still, to wait, to let patience become a weapon as deadly as any rifle. "Revenge isn't hot," Red Sky said one morning as they sat watching the sun rise over the desert. "People think it is. They think it's rage and fire and explosion. But real revenge is cold. It's ice. It's waiting years if you have to. It's becoming stone so nothing can hurt you while you hunt. Is that what you are?" Josephine asked. "Stone." Red Sky looked at her. Really looked, and for the first time, Josephine saw something other than hardness in those dark eyes. She saw loneliness, the same loneliness she felt every night in her father's too large house, surrounded by his things, haunted by his absence. "I'm trying to be," Red Sky said softly. "But you make it difficult." Josephine's heart stuttered. The air between them felt suddenly different, charged, like the moment before a thunderstorm when everything goes still and waiting. "Why?" she whispered. "Because you remind me I'm still human," Red Sky said. "And humans are vulnerable. Humans can be hurt." She stood then, walked away, and Josephine let her go, even though every part of her wanted to follow, wanted to close the distance, wanted to touch this woman who was teaching her to be dangerous while being the most dangerous thing Josephine had ever encountered. Not dangerous because of her rifle or her knife or her skill at tracking. Dangerous because Josephine was starting to care about her, starting to need her, starting to imagine a future that involved more than just revenge and loneliness. And that was the most frightening thing of all. The first time they touched was an accident. It was late October. The desert had finally cooled enough that you could breathe without feeling like you were inhaling fire. Josephine had been tracking an injured deer, not for sport, but for mercy, the same way Red Sky had tracked the rabid coyote. The deer had gotten tangled in old barbed wire, torn its leg badly. It wouldn't survive the coming winter. Best to end it quick. She'd tracked it to a narrow canyon about 3 miles from the line shack. The sun was setting, painting the canyon walls the color of old blood. She just raised her rifle when Red Sky appeared beside her, silent as smoke. Josephine, startled, actually jumped, and her finger tightened on the trigger. Red Sky's hand shot out, caught Josephine's wrist, kept the barrel pointed up and away. "Easy," Red Sky said. Her voice was low, calm. "You'll spook it. It needs to be still when you shoot, otherwise you'll wound it worse." But Josephine barely heard her. All she could focus on was the feeling of Red Sky's hand on her wrist. The warmth of it, the strength, the way her fingers pressed just hard enough to guide without hurting. It was the first time another person had touched her with kindness in, God, she couldn't remember. Months, maybe longer, she must have made. Some sound, some small betraying noise, because Red Sky's hand tightened, then released, quickly, as if she'd touched something hot. "Sorry," Red Sky said. "I should have announced myself." "No, it's—" Josephine's voice came out rough. "Thank you. You're right. I was rushing." They waited together in the cooling evening air. The deer moved into the open, limping, exhausted. Josephine raised her rifle again. This time her hands were steady. The shot was clean. The deer dropped without suffering. "Good," Red Sky said. "Quick and kind. That's how it should be." They field-dressed the animal together as the last light faded. It was intimate work, blood and effort, and the shared understanding that death, when necessary, should be handled with respect. Josephine's father had taught her this. Apparently, Red Sky's people had taught her the same. When they were finished, they sat beside a small fire-red sky built with practiced efficiency. The canyon walls rose around them like protective arms. Stars began to appear overhead, more stars than Josephine had ever seen in her life, so many they seemed to blur together into rivers of light. "My sister used to say the stars were the campfires of our ancestors," Red Sky said suddenly. She was staring up at them, her face soft with something that might have been grief or might have been love. It was hard to tell the difference sometimes. She said they were watching over us, keeping us company even when we were alone. "That's beautiful," Josephine said. "She was beautiful," Red Sky's voice cracked. "Just slightly, just enough. She was 8 years old. She liked to braid flowers into her hair. She laughed at everything, even things that weren't funny, especially things that weren't funny. She stopped, swallowed hard. "I can't talk about her." Josephine wanted to reach out, wanted to take Red Sky's hand the way Red Sky had taken hers earlier. But she didn't know if that would be welcomed or rejected, didn't know if touch would comfort or wound. "I understand," she said instead. "My father, I can't talk about him either, not without feeling like I'm breaking open." Red Sky looked at her then. The firelight played across her face, making her look both ancient and young, both hard and heartbreakingly vulnerable. "How do you bear it?" she asked. "The grief, the weight of them being gone." "Badly," Josephine said honestly. "Some days I can function. Some days I can't get out of bed. Some days I'm so angry I could burn the whole world down. And some days I just feel empty." "Yes." Red Sky's voice was barely a whisper. "Empty. That's exactly it. Like someone reached inside and scooped out everything vital." This time Josephine didn't hesitate. She reached across the space between them and took Red Sky's hand, just held it. Felt the calluses on her palm, the strength in her fingers, the way her hand trembled just slightly before settling into Josephine's grip. Red Sky didn't pull away, didn't speak, just held on. They sat like that for a long time, until the fire burned low, until the cold started to seep in, until the stars wheeled overhead in their ancient patterns. And in that silence, in that simple touch, something shifted between them. Something fundamental. "We should get back," Red Sky said finally, but she didn't let go. Not yet. "Yes," Josephine agreed, but she didn't move either. When they finally released each other, it felt like tearing, like leaving part of herself behind. Josephine rode back to her ranch in the darkness, navigating by starlight and memory, her hand still warm where Red Sky had touched it. After that night, they stopped pretending this was just about hunting, just about tracking a killer, just about revenge and justice and all the cold, hard things they'd convinced themselves they wanted. This was about something else, something neither of them had words for, something that grew in the spaces between their training sessions, in the shared silences, in the way they'd started anticipating each other's movements like dancers, learning the same choreography. Josephine started spending more time at the line shack, bringing supplies she claimed were extra from the ranch house, coffee, blankets, books. Red Sky accepted them without comment, but Josephine noticed how the shack gradually became more comfortable, more lived in, more like a place where two people might exist together instead of a temporary shelter for a woman on a mission. They talked more. Red Sky told stories about her childhood, before the soldiers came, before the world narrowed into reservations and restrictions and survival. She talked about her sister's laugh, her mother's songs, her brother's terrible jokes. She talked about the man she'd been promised to marry before everything fell apart, how he'd died defending their village, how she'd loved him, but not in the way songs described, not with fire and passion, but with companionship and shared purpose. "I thought that was what love was supposed to be," Red Sky said one afternoon as they sat cleaning their rifles. "Comfortable, safe, a good partnership." "And now?" Josephine asked. Her heart was beating too fast. They were edging towards something. Some admission, some acknowledgement of what was building between them. Red Sky was quiet for a long moment. Her hands stilled on her rifle. "Now I think maybe I was wrong," she said softly. "I think maybe love isn't supposed to be comfortable. I think maybe it's supposed to be." She gestured helplessly. "This, whatever this is, this feeling like you're standing at the edge of a cliff and every instinct says step back, be safe, protect yourself, but you want to jump anyway." Josephine's breath caught. She set down her rifle with shaking hands. "Red Sky, don't." Red Sky's voice was sharp, defensive. "Don't say anything. I shouldn't have. I can't. I'm here to hunt, to kill, to do the one thing I have left to do. I can't afford to feel this. I can't afford to want," she trailed off. But Josephine heard the rest, heard the unspoken words hanging in the air between them. "Want you. What if you could afford it?" Josephine said. Her voice was steadier than she felt. "What if you could do both? Hunt the man who destroyed your family and let yourself feel something other than rage." "You don't understand." Red Sky stood abruptly, started pacing. "If I let myself want this, want you, then I become vulnerable again. I become someone who can be hurt, and I've spent 6 months turning myself into stone specifically so I can't be hurt. So nothing can stop me, so I can do what needs to be done." "But you're not stone," Josephine said gently. "You're pretending to be stone, and pretending is exhausting. I should know. I've been pretending to be fine for 6 months, pretending I can run this ranch alone, pretending I don't need anybody, pretending I'm not terrified every single night that whoever killed my father will come back and kill me too." She stood, crossed the small room, stopped inches away from Red Sky. "What if we stopped pretending?" she whispered. "Both of us. What if we just were?" Red Sky looked at her. Josephine could see the war happening behind her eyes, the conflict between what she wanted and what she thought she should want, between the mission and the woman, between revenge and this. "I don't know how to be anything but broken," Red Sky said. Her voice was raw, honest. "I don't know if I remember how to be soft." "Then be broken," Josephine said. "Be hard. Be exactly what you are. I don't need you to be soft. I just need you to be here with me, even if it's just for now, even if it's just until you find him." Red Sky closed her eyes, breathed out slowly. When she opened them again, something had changed. Some wall had cracked. "Just until I find him," she repeated. After that we'll deal with after that," Josephine said, and then finally, inevitably, they closed the remaining distance between them. Red Sky's hand came up to cup Josephine's face with a gentleness that seemed impossible from a woman who lived by the rifle and the knife. Josephine leaned into the touch, feeling something in her chest unknot for the first time in months. "I can't promise you anything," Red Sky whispered. "I can't promise tomorrow or next week or—" "I don't want promises," Josephine said. "I want this right now, you and me and this moment. That's enough." And it was. God help them both, it was. November brought cold winds and the first real rumors. Josephine heard them in town when she went for supplies. Whispered conversations in the general store. Nervous glances from the shopkeeper. Talk of a drifter who'd been seen around the territory. A man with pale eyes and a cruel mouth. Asking questions about land deeds and water rights and who owned what. "He's got a scar," the shopkeeper said, leaning close like he was sharing a secret. "Right here." He traced a line from his left eyebrow down to his cheek, like someone tried to gut him with a knife and just barely missed. Josephine's blood went cold. She'd seen that scar 6 months ago on the man she'd glimpsed riding away from her father's body. She'd only gotten a brief look, just a silhouette and a flash of that distinctive scar before he disappeared into the hills. She bought her supplies quickly and rode back to the line shack. Red Sky needed to know. She found Red Sky on the roof repairing shingles. It was oddly domestic, this dangerous woman doing household repairs in the autumn sunshine. For a moment, Josephine just watched her, memorizing the lines of her body, the competence of her movements, memorizing this version of her before everything changed again. "Red Sky," she called. "Come down. I have news." Red Sky descended with the easy grace of someone who'd spent her childhood climbing trees and canyon walls. She took one look at Josephine's face and tensed. "You found him." "I found word of him. There's a man in the territory, pale eyes, scar from his eyebrow to his cheek, asking questions about property and who lives where." "Red Sky, I think it's him. I think it's the same man who killed my father." Red Sky's face went very still, very quiet, the way it did when she was processing information, calculating odds, planning her next move. "Describe him," she said. "Everything, every detail." Josephine told her everything the shopkeeper had said, every rumor, every sighting, every question the stranger had asked. As she spoke, she watched Red Sky's expression shift from stillness to something darker, something that looked like recognition. "Thomas Brennan," Red Sky said finally. The name came out like poison, like something foul she needed to spit out before it contaminated her further. "That's his name. The man I've been hunting. He has a scar because my mother gave it to him. She fought back when he came for her. Almost took his eye. He killed her for it. Killed her slowly." "Jesus," Josephine breathed. "He's a claim jumper," Red Sky continued. Her voice was clinical now, detached, the voice of someone reciting facts to keep from screaming. "He finds isolated homesteads, kills the owners, forges papers that say he bought the land legally, then sells it to settlers for a profit. He's done it at least a dozen times. My family, your father, others we don't even know about." "How do you know all this?" "Because I've been learning," Red Sky said. "For 6 months I've been following his trail, talking to survivors, trading information with other tribes who've lost people to him, piecing together the pattern. He works in territories where the law is weak and memories are short. He never stays in one place long. And he's very, very good at making murders look like accidents or robberies or Indian raids." Josephine felt sick. All this time she'd thought her father's death was random. Bad luck, wrong place, wrong time. But it wasn't. It was calculated, premeditated, part of a pattern. "We have to tell the sheriff," she said. Red Sky laughed. It was a bitter sound, empty. "The sheriff won't help." "The sheriff can't help. Brennan is careful. He leaves no witnesses, no evidence, nothing that would hold up in a white man's court. Especially not if the primary witness is a Comanche woman with no legal standing." "Then what do we do?" Red Sky looked at her, held her gaze. "We do what we've always planned to do," she said. "We find him. We confirm it's him. And then I kill him." Josephine wanted to argue, wanted to say there had to be another way. But she thought about her father, about Red Sky's family, about all the other families this man had destroyed in his quest for money and land, and whatever else drove men to such cruelty. And she found she had no arguments left. "All right," she said, "but not just you. We kill him. Together." Red Sky started to protest, but Josephine cut her off. "He killed my father," she said firmly. "I have just as much right to this as you do. More than that. I won't let you do this alone. If something goes wrong, if he's faster or luckier I won't let you face him alone." They stared at each other. The air between them was charged with unspoken things, fear, determination, something deeper that neither of them wanted to name. "If we do this," Red Sky said slowly, "if we actually hunt him together, you need to understand what that means. It means we become killers. It means we cross a line we can never uncross. It means we put aside everything we were raised to believe about law and justice and civilization, and we become something else, something wild. Can you do that?" Josephine thought about it, really thought about it. She'd been raised to believe in law and order, in turning the other cheek, in leaving justice to God or government or someone else with authority. But she'd also been raised to believe women were fragile creatures who needed protection, that they should be demure and domestic and dependent on men. Her father had raised her to ride and shoot and run a ranch. He'd raised her to be capable, to be strong, and now that strength demanded she act. Demanded she take justice into her own hands because no one else would do it for her. "Yes," she said. "I can do that." Red Sky nodded slowly. Then she did something unexpected. She took Josephine's hand, raised it to her lips, kissed the knuckles gently. "Then we do this together," she said. "And whatever happens, whatever we become it together." That night they spread the map on the table and began planning in earnest. Red Sky had tracked Brennan's movements for months. Every town he'd visited, every property he'd claimed, every murder that followed his path. The pattern was clear once you knew to look for it. He moved in a rough circle through the territories, hitting isolated homesteads, disappearing for a few months while he sold the land, then reappearing somewhere else. "He's getting bolder," Red Sky said, tracing a finger along the route. "The gaps between killings are getting shorter. He used to wait 6 months. Now it's more like 8 weeks. He's either running out of money faster or he's enjoying it," Josephine finished grimly. "Yes." They studied the map in silence. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the shutters. Winter was coming, and with it apparently Thomas Brennan. "If he follows his pattern," Josephine said, "he'll hit another property soon, somewhere in this area." She circled a section of the map with her finger. "These are all the isolated homesteads within 50 miles. Maybe 20 properties total. Too many to watch," Red Sky said. "We need to narrow it down, figure out which one he'll target next. He looks for certain things, doesn't he? Properties with good water access, single owners or small families, places far enough from town that screams won't be heard." Red Sky's jaw tightened. "Yes." Josephine studied the map again. Then her heart stopped. "Red Sky. The Halloway Ranch fits all those criteria. I'm a single woman on good land with reliable water. I'm isolated, and he knows my father is already dead. He doesn't know I'm still there. He probably thinks the property is abandoned or that I've sold it already." Red Sky's head snapped up. Their eyes met across the map. "He's coming for you," Red Sky said. "That's why he's in the territory. That's why he's asking questions. He's planning his next move. And you're it." The realization hung between them like a physical thing, heavy, inevitable. "Good," Josephine said. She was surprised by how steady her voice sounded. "Then we don't have to hunt him. We just have to wait." "Josephine, no, listen, this is perfect. We know he's coming. We know what he wants. We can prepare. We can be ready. And when he comes, we end him." Red Sky was shaking her head. "It's too dangerous. You're making yourself bait. If something goes wrong, you'll be there," Josephine said firmly. "We'll set a trap. He thinks I'm an easy target. A helpless woman alone on a ranch. We'll let him keep thinking that. And when he makes his move, we'll be waiting." Red Sky stood, paced, stopped, turned back to Josephine with anguish written across her face. "I can't lose you," she said. The words came out raw, unguarded. "I know I said this was temporary. I know I said just until I found him. But I can't lose you. Not after I've finally found something worth living for besides revenge." Josephine stood, crossed to her, took her face in both hands. "You won't lose me," she said. "I promise you. We're going to do this together. We're going to end him together. And then we're going to figure out what comes after revenge. Together." They kissed then, desperate, fierce, like they were trying to prove to each other they were still alive, still human, still capable of feeling something besides rage and grief. When they finally pulled apart, Red Sky rested her forehead against Josephine's. "If we do this," she whispered, "we do it smart. We plan everything, every detail, every contingency. We leave nothing to chance." "Agreed," Josephine said, and so they planned. The trap was simple, too simple, which meant it might actually work. Josephine would go about her normal routine, tend the cattle, ride into town for supplies, act like a woman alone, vulnerable, unprotected. Let Brennan see her isolation. Let him think she was easy prey. Meanwhile, Red Sky would watch, hidden, always within rifle range, always ready. They spent 2 weeks preparing. Red Sky scouted every approach to the ranch house, every hiding spot Brennan might use, every escape route he might take. She positioned supplies, extra ammunition, water, dried food, at strategic points around the property. She taught Josephine signals, subtle movements that would look innocent to Brennan, but would tell Red Sky everything she needed to know. They were ready, or as ready as two women could be, to face a man who'd made a career of murder. The waiting was the hardest part. Josephine went through her days in a state of heightened awareness. Every sound made her reach for her revolver. Every shadow made her heart race. Every stranger who rode past the property made her wonder, is it him? Is it now? At night, Red Sky would slip into the ranch house through a back window. They'd lie together in Josephine's bed, not always making love, sometimes just holding each other, taking comfort in the solid reality of another body, another heartbeat. Proof that they were still alive, still here, still fighting. "What do you think about?" Josephine asked one night. They were tangled together under quilts, the winter cold seeping through the walls, despite the fire in the hearth. "When you imagine killing him, what do you see?" Red Sky was quiet for a long time. Her fingers traced patterns on Josephine's shoulder, idle movements, unconscious. "I used to see revenge," she said finally. "I used to imagine making him suffer the way he made my family suffer. Making him beg, making him understand in his last moments the magnitude of what he took from me. Used to. Now I just want it over." Red Sky's voice was tired, ancient. "I want him dead so I can stop carrying this weight. So I can stop being the woman whose only purpose is vengeance. So I can start being something else. What do you want to be?" Red Sky shifted, looked at Josephine in the dim firelight. "I don't know yet," she said. "But I think maybe I want to find out with you, if you'll have me, after this is done. If we survive," Josephine's throat tightened. "Of course I'll have you. There's nothing I want more. Even though I'm—" Red Sky gestured vaguely at herself. "This, broken, wrong, not the kind of woman you're supposed to—" "You're exactly the kind of woman I'm supposed to be with," Josephine interrupted. "Because you're the woman I choose, not the woman society says I should choose. Not the woman my father would have picked for me. The woman I want. The woman who makes me feel alive and terrified and hopeful all at once." Red Sky kissed her, slow, deep, like she was trying to memorize the taste of her, the feel of her. "When this is over," she whispered against Josephine's mouth, "remind me I said that. Remind me I'm allowed to want this." "I will," Josephine promised. "Every day for the rest of our lives, if that's what it takes." They made love that night with a desperation that came from knowing everything could end tomorrow, or the next day, or the day after that, from knowing that Brennan could arrive at any moment and shatter this fragile thing they'd built together. But he didn't come. Not that night. Not the next. 3 weeks passed, then 4. Josephine started to wonder if they'd been wrong. If Brennan had moved on to easier targets. If they'd wasted all this time preparing for a threat that no longer existed. Then, on a grey December morning with snow threatening in the heavy clouds, a stranger rode up to the Holloway ranch. Josephine was in the barn, mucking stalls, honest work that kept her hands busy and her mind from spinning in circles. She heard the hoofbeats, heard them stop. She set down a pitchfork and walked to the barn door, wiping her hands on her work pants. The man sitting on the horse was lean and weathered, with pale eyes that seemed to see right through you, and running from his left eyebrow down to his cheek was a long, jagged scar. Thomas Brennan had arrived. Josephine's hand moved toward her revolver, a tiny movement, instinctive, but she caught herself, forced herself to relax, to play the part of a woman alone, wary but not dangerous. "Can I help you?" she called. Her voice came out steady. "Thank God," Brennan smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Morning, ma'am," he said. His voice was pleasant, educated, the voice of a man who'd learned to use charm, the way other men used weapons. "I'm looking for the property owner, Mr. Holloway, I believe." "My father," Josephine said. "He passed some months back. I'm managing the ranch now." Brennan's expression shifted to sympathy. "Perfectly performed. Perfectly false. I'm so sorry for your loss," he said. "That must be difficult, running a place this size alone. Dangerous even. There was something in the way he said dangerous that made Josephine's skin crawl. "I manage," she said shortly. "Now what can I do for you?" "I'm in the land acquisition business," Brennan said. He dismounted slowly, deliberately, keeping his hands visible, playing at being harmless. "I'm looking to purchase property in this territory. Water rights, specifically. This ranch has good water access, if I'm not mistaken. The Santa Rosa riverbed, even dry, indicates a strong aquifer below. The ranch isn't for sale," Josephine said. "Everything's for sale at the right price," Brennan replied. His smile widened. "And a woman alone. Well, running a ranch is hard work. Dangerous work. Maybe you'd be happier somewhere safer. Somewhere in town, with neighbors, with protection." The threat was subtle but unmistakable. Josephine felt rage flood through her, hot and clarifying. This was the man who'd killed her father, the man who'd destroyed Red Sky's family, the man who thought he could intimidate her into selling her home so he could add it to his collection of stolen properties. She wanted to draw her revolver and shoot him where he stood, but she couldn't, not yet. They needed to be certain, needed evidence, needed him to confess or make a move that would justify what they were about to do. "I appreciate the offer," she said coldly, "but I'm not interested. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do." She turned to go back into the barn. It was a calculated risk, turning her back on him, giving him an opening, but it was part of the plan. Let him think she was careless, vulnerable. "Think about it," Brennan called after her. "I'll be in the territory for a few more days, staying at the boarding house in town if you change your mind. Or if you need any help, you know where to find me." The way he said help made it clear he wasn't offering assistance. He was offering a threat. "Cooperate or suffer the consequences." Josephine kept walking. Didn't look back. Heard him mount his horse. Heard him ride away. Only when the sound of hoofbeats had faded completely did she allow herself to shake. Red Sky appeared from the hayloft where she'd been hidden. Climbed down quickly, crossed to Josephine and pulled her into a fierce embrace. "I almost shot him," Red Sky said. Her voice was shaking with suppressed rage. "When he threatened you, when he looked at you like you were prey, I almost put a bullet through his skull." "I'm glad you didn't," Josephine said. "Not yet. Not until we're sure we can finish this without consequences. We're sure." That's him. I'd know his voice anywhere. "I've heard it in my nightmares for 6 months." Josephine pulled back, looked at Red Sky's face, saw the rage there, the hunger for vengeance. But also fear for Josephine, fear of losing her. "Then we stick to the plan," she said. "He thinks I'm an easy target. Let him keep thinking that. He'll come back soon, probably at night. And when he does, we'll be ready." Red Sky nodded. Her jaw was tight. Her eyes were hard. "When he comes," she said, "you stay inside. Lock the doors. Let me handle him. No, we do this together. Remember?" "Josephine." "Together," Josephine repeated firmly. "We finish this together." "Or not at all." Red Sky stared at her. Then slowly she nodded. "Together," she agreed. "But if anything goes wrong, if he gets past me, you run. You don't try to fight him. You don't try to be a hero. You run, promise me." Josephine wanted to argue, but she saw the fear in Red Sky's eyes, the desperate need for Josephine to survive, even if Red Sky herself didn't. "I promise," she lied, because the truth was, if Brennan got past Red Sky, Josephine wasn't running anywhere. She was going to empty her revolver into him and hope at least one bullet found its mark. They spent that day reinforcing the plan, checking sightlines, confirming escape routes, making sure their weapons were clean and loaded and ready. They didn't talk about what would happen after, didn't let themselves imagine a future beyond the next few days. It hurt too much to hope when everything could still go wrong. That night they lay together in the darkness, neither sleeping, just listening, waiting, knowing that somewhere out there Thomas Brennan was planning his next move. And tomorrow, or the next day, or the day after that, it would all come to an end, one way or another. He came on the third night, during a snowstorm. Of course he did. The snow would cover his tracks. The wind would muffle any sounds. The cold would keep people indoors, away from windows, unobservant. It was the perfect night for murder. Josephine lay in her bed, fully dressed, revolver under her pillow. She wasn't sleeping. Hadn't slept in 3 days. Every sound made her muscles tense. Every gust of wind made her reach for her weapon. Red Sky was outside somewhere, hidden, watching. Josephine didn't know exactly where. That was by design. If Brennan somehow captured Josephine, she couldn't reveal Red Sky's position, even under duress. It was smart, strategic, it was also terrifying. The sound, when it came, was almost imperceptible. A soft scraping. Wood on wood. Someone trying to open the back door. The one that led from the kitchen to the yard. The one Josephine had deliberately left unlocked. Her heart hammered. This was it. This was the moment. Everything they'd planned, everything they'd prepared for, was about to happen. She heard footsteps, slow, careful, moving through the kitchen, into the hallway, toward her bedroom. Josephine lay perfectly still, breathed evenly, played at being asleep. Let him come to her. Let him think he had the advantage. Her bedroom door opened. She felt the cold air from the hallway wash over her. Felt his presence in the room, malevolent, predatory. Miss Halloway. Brennan's voice came from the darkness, soft, almost gentle. I'm sorry to disturb you, but we have business to discuss. Josephine didn't move, didn't respond, waited. I know you're awake, Brennan continued. No one sleeps that still. Not when they know someone's in their room. So let's dispense with the pretense, shall we? Josephine opened her eyes. In the dim moonlight filtering through the curtains, she could see Brennan's silhouette. He was standing at the foot of her bed. In his hand was a revolver, pointed at her head. There we are, he said. Now, here's how this is going to work. You're going to sign papers transferring ownership of this property to me. You're going to do it willingly with a smile on your face. And then, well, then we'll see what happens. I'm not signing anything, Josephine said. Her voice was steady, strong. Get out of my house. Brennan laughed. I don't think you understand your situation. You're alone, unprotected. If you scream, no one will hear you. If you fight, I'll kill you. Your choices are cooperate and maybe survive the night, or refuse and definitely don't. It's really quite simple. I understand my situation perfectly, Josephine said. The question is, do you understand yours? Brennan's smile faltered, just slightly. What are you? He never finished the sentence. The bedroom window exploded inward in a shower of glass and snow. Red Sky came through it like vengeance incarnate, rifle raised, eyes blazing with 6 months of accumulated rage. Brennan spun, fired. The shot went wide. He'd been surprised, off balance. Red Sky didn't miss. A bullet took him in the shoulder, spinning him around, making him drop his weapon. Josephine rolled out of bed, grabbed her revolver from under her pillow. By the time Brennan had staggered upright, he had 2 guns trained on him. Don't move, Red Sky said. Her voice was cold, empty, the voice of death itself. Don't even breathe wrong. Brennan clutched his wounded shoulder. Blood seeped between his fingers. He looked from Red Sky to Josephine and back again, and slowly, understanding dawned on his face. Well, he said, this is unexpected. The grieving daughter and the... He looked at Red Sky more closely. His eyes widened. You're one of them. From the village. You were supposed to be dead. My mother sent me away before you came, Red Sky said. To trade horses. She saved my life. And in doing so, she gave me purpose. She gave me a reason to find you. To hunt you. To make you pay for what you did. I'm a businessman, Brennan said. He was trying for charm even now, even bleeding and cornered. I buy land. I sell land. That's all. Sometimes there are complications, but it's never personal. You killed my family, Red Sky snarled. You burned my home. You destroyed everything I loved. And you call that a complication? And my father, Josephine added, 6 months ago, you shot him in the back and took his land deeds. Tried to forge papers saying you bought this property legally. Brennan's face shifted. Calculation replacing charm. He was looking for an angle. A way out. All right, he said. Yes, I killed them, both your families, and a dozen others. But killing me won't bring them back. It won't fix anything. It won't make you feel better. If anything, it'll make you like me. Killers, murderers. We're already murderers, Red Sky said softly. We became murderers the moment we decided your life was worth less than our vengeance. The moment we decided the world would be better off without you in it. So don't pretend you're giving us information we don't already have. We know what we're about to do. We've made our peace with it, have you? Brennan looked at Josephine. You're a rancher's daughter. Probably raised Christian, taught to forgive, to turn the other cheek. Can you really pull that trigger? Can you really live with taking a human life? Josephine thought about her father, about finding his body, about the 6 months of grief and loneliness and terror that had followed, about Red Sky's family, about all the other families this man had destroyed. Yes, she said simply, I can live with it, because letting you live would mean condemning other families to the same fate. And I can't live with that. Brennan's expression hardened. The charm dropped away completely, revealing the cruelty underneath. Then do it, he spat. Pull the trigger. But know that when you do, you're proving you're no better than me. You're just killers with a prettier excuse. No, Red Sky said. We're people who are willing to become killers to stop you from killing anyone else. There's a difference. You kill for profit, for entertainment, because you can. We're killing you because we must, because you've left us no other choice. Because justice won't come from any other quarter. Justice, Brennan laughed bitterly. You want to call this justice? This is revenge, pure and simple. And revenge never. Red Sky shot him clean, quick, through the heart. He dropped without finishing his sentence, dropped without another word. The life left his eyes before his body hit the floor. The room filled with ringing silence. Gunsmoke hung in the air, acrid and final. Josephine stared at Brennan's body, felt nothing, no satisfaction, no relief, no guilt, just emptiness. The same emptiness she'd been carrying for 6 months. The hollow place where her father used to be. Is it done? She asked quietly. Is it really over? Red Sky lowered her rifle. Her hands were shaking. Her face was wet with tears. She didn't seem aware she was crying. It's done, she whispered. He's dead. He can't hurt anyone else. She stopped, breathed. It's over. They stood there for a long moment, neither moving, neither speaking, just existing in the aftermath, in the space where vengeance had been and now wasn't. Then Josephine set down her revolver and crossed to Red Sky, pulled her into her arms, held her while she shook, while she cried, while 6 months of rage and grief and purpose drained out of her and left her hollow. What do we do now? Red Sky asked against Josephine's shoulder. I've spent so long hunting him, being angry, having a reason to wake up every morning. And now I don't know what I'm supposed to be. You're supposed to be alive, Josephine said. You're supposed to rest, to heal, to figure out who you are when you're not carrying the weight of revenge. And I'll be with you, every step, for as long as you'll have me. What about him? Red Sky gestured to the body. We have to. We tell the truth, Josephine said. He broke into my house, threatened me. You defended me, self-defense, not murder, not vengeance. Just 2 women protecting each other. Will they believe us? I don't know. But we have the broken window, his gun on the floor, the bullet wound in my wall from when he shot at you. We have evidence, and more than that, we have each other. We'll testify for each other, stand with each other. And if that's not enough, we'll leave, go somewhere no one knows us. Start over. Red Sky pulled back, looked at Josephine's face in the dim light. You would do that. Leave your home, your father's ranch, everything you know, for you. Josephine said. Yes, 1,000 times yes. This place is just land and wood and memories. You are what matters now. You are what's worth keeping. Red Sky kissed her then. Desperate, grateful. The kiss of a woman who'd forgotten she was allowed to be happy. Allowed to want things beyond revenge. When they finally pulled apart, the snow outside had stopped. The sky was clearing. And through the broken window, Josephine could see stars. Thousands of them, millions, all the campfires of all the ancestors, watching over them, keeping them company. We should clean up, Red Sky said finally. Before morning. Before anyone comes. Yes, Josephine agreed. But after we're done. Let's just sit together and figure out what comes next. What do you think comes next? Josephine looked at the stars, at the broken window that would need fixing, at the body on her floor that represented the end of one story and the beginning of another. I think we wake up tomorrow, she said, and we make breakfast, and we feed the cattle, and we do all the ordinary things that living people do. And somewhere in all that ordinary, we figure out how to be happy, how to be US without the weight of what we've been carrying. I don't know if I remember how to be happy, Red Sky said softly. Then we'll learn together, Josephine said. We'll learn to be happy the same way we learned to hunt, slowly, with practice, with patience, with each other. And that's what they did. The sheriff came in the morning, looked at the scene, took their statements. Didn't ask too many questions because, frankly, he was relieved Brennan was dead. The man had been a ghost, a rumor, a problem no one could solve. Now he was solved. And if two women had done what the law couldn't, well, that was frontier justice. Red Sky stayed. Not in the line shack, but in the ranch house. In Josephine's bed. In Josephine's life. They worked the ranch together. Rebuilt the window together. Learned to sleep without nightmares together. It wasn't easy. Healing never is. There were days when the grief came back like a flood. Days when Red Sky woke up screaming from dreams of fire and blood. Days when Josephine couldn't stop crying for her father. Days when the weight of what they'd done, the killing, the choice to become executioners, sat heavy on both their shoulders. But there were also good days. Days when the sun was warm and the work was honest and they could sit on the porch in the evening and just be. Days when Red Sky laughed at something silly and Josephine realized she'd never heard a more beautiful sound. Days when they could touch each other without desperation, with just affection, love, the simple pleasure of existing in the same space. They never married, couldn't legally, but they didn't need law or paper or anyone's approval. They had each other. They had their shared history, tragedy and violence, and the choice to survive together. They had their shared future, whatever it might hold, however long it might last. And they had this moment, this breath, this heartbeat. Right now, that was enough. That was everything. Years later, when they were old and gray and still working the ranch together, people would sometimes ask how they met. And Red Sky would look at Josephine with those dark eyes that still held depths and mysteries, and she'd say, "She found me by the riverbed. And instead of turning away, she gave me shelter. Instead of fearing me, she learned from me. Instead of judging what I'd become, she helped me become something new. She saw me when I was nothing but rage and revenge. And she loved me anyway." And Josephine would take Red Sky's weathered hand in her own and say, "She taught me I was stronger than I knew, braver than I believed, capable of more than I'd imagined. She showed me that justice isn't always found in courtrooms, that love isn't always simple or easy or societally approved, that sometimes the most important thing you can do is stand beside someone and say, 'I see you. I choose you. Come what may.' And then they'd smile at each other, those secret smiles that pass between people who've survived impossibilities together. And they'd let the questions fade unanswered, because some stories aren't meant to be fully told. Some secrets are meant to be worn like the desert, vast and deep and beautiful in their mystery. Some loves are meant to exist outside the boundaries of what's permitted or understood or easily explained. And that was exactly as it should be. Thanks for watching this story till the end. Comment below and tell me where you're watching from. And before you go, check out these other amazing Western stories waiting for you next. Subscribe, like, and I'll see you on the next ride.